IVM.
IVM Likes is an IVM production, and if you like fun banter about latest in politics, economics, and social life, check out Cyrus Says, where comedian Cyrus Brocha sits down with new guests and panelists every week to discuss the latest in the world. So check it out on the IVM podcast app or wherever you listen to podcasts. Hello and welcome to IVM Likes, everyone. It's episode 48. I am Navin Narona, and with me in the studio I have three other people. I have Alika, I have Josh, and I have Abbas.
Hey.
Hello, guys.
Hi.
Hey.
Yes, you were supposed to synchronize your haste, but you guys are so bad at this. But let's start with the episode now. And today we are recommending a bunch of stuff, and also we're talking about fight choreography in films and what really entices us about watching people fight.
Really? Are we talking that also?
Yeah, I mean, like, anytime a fight breaks out on the street, everybody's just, like, gathering around
Excited.
Yeah.
It's something that, like, nobody wants to break up the fight. They just want to watch what the outcome is, like, who knocks out who.
The cheapest form of entertainment.
Yeah.
It's like, let one person go mad on another.
But, like, in India, people don't really get on each other's nerves, do they? Let's not discuss that.
Are you serious, man?
In terms of fighting.
People are so
I feel
aggro out
that
here.
maybe a diet thing.
Alright, so now to start off with the recommendation round, we have Alika going up first.
Oh, am I? Okay, great.
Keep it short.
That's not going to happen because what I'm recommending today is the original soundtrack to a musical called Hamilton, which is amazing. Okay, it's called Hamilton, an American musical. It's a brainchild of Lin-Manuel Miranda. You may have heard his music in a movie called Moana. And he's also done a couple of other musicals before. In the Heights was one of them. And Hamilton is basically a musical about Alexander Hamilton, who was one of the founding fathers of America. And Lin-Manuel came across a biography by Ron Chernow on his vacation and decided, hey, this sounds like something that he could make into a musical. So he wrote a rap about Alexander Hamilton and ended up performing it in the White House. And after that, he started writing more and more raps about the man and, you know, his life story. And it ended up becoming a full-blown musical, which premiered off-Broadway in January 2015. Then just sold out immediately. Went to Broadway on July 2015 and now is constantly sold out.
Yeah, man.
It is constantly sold out. The tickets are like $1,000.
It's one of those things, like, you know, where like most of sitcoms say that, you know, it's a very privileged thing to do, like to have Hamilton tickets and go for them.
But it's really, really good. Like, it's won N number of Tony Awards. It's won a Grammy. It's won a Pulitzer Prize for drama. And yeah, so I'm not recommending you go and see the musical because that would cost you a lot. But you can listen to the original soundtrack on places like Spotify or our own Savan. Or
It's not our Savan, but sure.
Yeah, sure, whatever.
But it's cheaper than going to New York and actually watching it on Broadway.
Pretty much.
Comparatively.
Yeah, and you can also probably find it on YouTube if you're so inclined. And yeah, I mean, like, the music is great. It's hip-hop, it's rap, and there are also, like, other different styles of music running through it. Actually, they made it so that, you know, each important character in the musical has their own sort of rhythm and cadence to their lyrics. So, like, George Washington has this very stiff, formal prose. And when you first encounter Thomas Jefferson in the musical, he starts off with jazz because he's so out of America, because he was in France for a whole lot of time before he came back. So to show that he was out of touch with America, they start him off with the jazz numbers. It's really, really cool. The lyrics are amazing. They will make you sing along immediately. That's pretty much my recommendation.
It was short. It was not like...
Oh, do you want it longer?
No, I see your short note right there, but
I can sing this thing.
No, don't sing.
Yeah, that's
You're
probably...
supposed to sing in the opening when we were, like, synchronizing, but you totally bailed on that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's the recommendation. The OST for Hamilton.
Yeah.
Alright, so now Josh.
Okay, so my recommendation for today is an article in The Caravan, actually.
Okay.
It came out last month in the November edition of The Caravan. The full article you can access online. Before, like, last month, I couldn't access the whole article, so that's why I bought the magazine.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
You're probably the only person who's still buying magazines physically.
No, I just bought the one copy.
Okay.
Because of this article. So this article is called The Second Coming, How Malayalam Cinema's Only Female Superstar Got Back to Work. So it's an in-depth piece on an actress in Malayalam cinema called Manju Warrior. And interestingly enough, this year, Malayalam cinema, interestingly enough, very serious issue, okay, happened this year where a woman in February was kidnapped and gang raped.
Okay.
And in August, they arrested this huge Malayalam film star called Dilip. And Dilip was Manju Warrior's ex-husband. And they had divorced ages ago. And she was involved because there was some sort of issue with the divorce settlement. And basically, it was Malayalam cinema's only sort of Harvey Weinstein moment in a sense, because in May they started this thing called the Women in Cinema Collective, which is supposed to, improve work conditions for women in Malayalam cinema. So the article is basically about Manju Warrior. It's about her career, what she means to like women in Kerala, because the roles she used to play in the 90s and early 2000s were very sort of strong women. Like there are a lot of her films on Hotstar, so I would highly recommend you read this article and then check out the films as well. But
on the glitchy UI.
Yeah, on the glitchy UI. But it was interesting because after she got married to Dilip, she did the same standard thing where as soon as these actresses get married, they stop acting. It's like they're not in films anymore. It's like they're confined to home life. And then she, got divorced from him. She got back into acting. So it's just about her career. That parallel with this issue of this gang rape that has happened this year in Kerala. And what's interesting is just today I read an article in The Guardian about Bollywood's sort of the casting couch thing in Bollywood, and they mentioned this thing there about Dilip and Manju Warrior and all that.
I think it's now slowly boiling over. Now, I think we also will have that kind of renaissance.
Yeah,
where people will talk about it.
Exactly, because casting couch, man, has been coming in the papers for. I feel like I've read about it for ages.
It's
in the
a punchline for ages now.
Yeah, and now it's like so. So the article is it's very long. It's written by, I'll tell you who's written by. Sorry. Leena Geeta Regunath. It's a very long article, but I would suggest you read the whole thing because it is if you're interested in like Malayalam cinema, especially in Manju Warrior, because I had never really watched anything with Manju Warrior before I read this article. Now I'm just obsessed with her films, man, because they're just mad. Some of the storylines.
So a friend of mine told me that one of the biggest producers and directors in Indian film industry, like if he meets female actresses who are like vying for a role, he calls them to his office and does not wear pants, just sits just with a shirt and bottomless. So I hope that this guy obviously gets arrested for what he's doing.
Yeah.
There's this video of Tiska Chopra at a storytelling function, and she very clandestinely mentions a director who kind of tried to make advances at her and kind of tries to uncover the sort of tricks that they use. They use outdoor shoots. They make sure that the least amount of crew is involved, and that's when they try and make their move. So yeah, it is. I mean, it's out there in the open. It's one of those open secrets that everybody knows. But
when it's going to boil over, who knows? But in the Malayalam, they've set up this Women in Cinema Collective, which was a huge thing because there's a whole bunch of Malayalam female directors, writers, actresses, all these people just coming together and forming this collective to kind of. And last month, I think they've got, I can't remember what it is. They have, it was legitimized last month, Okay. It was set up earlier in the year, but last month, it's an official body now. So it's a really cool article and you should check it out. Hopefully the link will be in the description. So
hopefully.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
If our producer remembers.
Who's that? Next up, we have Abbas.
Yeah, I'm recommending a movie today. It's a Netflix original film. It's called I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore.
Oh my God, what a title.
Out of the depths of emo-ness.
Straight emo.
It's what I think I would qualify as a dark comedy. The main two stars of the film is this actress called Melanie Linsky, who you might have seen in this HBO show called Togetherness. She's worked a bit with the Duplass brothers. She's a very good actress. And Elijah Wood. Elijah Wood plays Frodo, yeah. From
Elijah Wood plays Frodo.
He's typecast Frodo forever.
The Ring guy.
Yeah.
So I'll try and break this down film to as simply as I can. So Melanie Linsky plays a nurse who is kind of jaded with life. She's having kind of a midlife crisis where she can't find meaning to her life anywhere. And she's come to the conclusion that everybody in this world is a selfish asshole. There is no one who will help you find yourself or the purpose in life, and everything is basically gone to shit. And while she's having this existential crisis, there is a burglary at her house. And the only two things that are stolen from her house is her grandmother's cutlery and her laptop. She tries to go to the police, but the police aren't really helpful. So it worsens her condition of having the crisis. And then to add to that, in her neighborhood, a new neighbor moves in, who's played by Elijah Wood. And he's this really cocky, heavy metal loving, gym obsessed guy who comes across as very cocky, but he's actually just trying to put up that image. He's actually a really douchey guy. So one night the events kick off when Melanie Linsky's character is sitting at home late at night, and the tracker of her laptop starts going off on her mobile, those apps that you see where the laptop is, and she comes to know where her stolen laptop is, and she wants to go confront whoever has stolen it. But nobody's coming to her rescue. She goes to the police. The police says it's too late at night for us to do anything. She goes to the neighbors. They also don't help. So ultimately she has to go to the Elijah Wood character to get him on board, and they go and confront this place. Now what happens when they reach this place would be going into a little bit of a spoilerific territory. But basically what that event leads them on to a series of the wrong people being in the wrong place at the wrong time. So there's this oddball couple of this woman having an existential crisis, this guy trying to be tough, and they try and face an underworld mafia don, and they just keep going into deeper trouble the more as the movie goes on. So what struck me about the movie is that the tone and humor of the film keeps getting darker as the film goes along. In the beginning you think it's going to be one of those odd screwball comedies, but the climax is pretty dark, but it's still very engaging and thrilling to sit through. So yeah, check it out. It's called I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore. It has some really funny moments. I think both the actors give a very good performance, especially Elijah Wood in certain situations is very funny when it's kind of difficult to play someone who's trying to be tough, right? And not actually the tough guy. So they do a really good job. It's a very interesting film. It's one of those films that barely stayed on my homepage for half a day, but then I was checking out Elijah Wood's filmography, so I came across it.
Elijah Wood,
yeah, his twin brother who is very fond of food, I guess. So yeah, it's on Netflix. It's a Netflix original. It's called I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore. Very funny movie. Has the potential to become a cult film. Let's see.
I think Elijah Wood is a great actor though. Like he's been typecast, as you were saying, as Frodo.
He's what, like 30, 40? How old? He must be old by now.
He was in his 30s when he was doing the Hobbit films. So I think he must be 36. Close to his 40s. Yeah,
36, yeah.
So, I love all Elijah Wood stories where he's mistaken for Daniel Radcliffe.
Oh,
my favorite stories ever.
Yeah.
He's even signed a couple of autographs as Daniel Radcliffe.
Yeah.
I remember watching a very old movie of his where he's a kid. Him and Macaulay Culkin.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Macaulay! Who's this Macaulay?
Macaulay and Elijah Wood together.
Yeah, Macaulay and Elijah Wood were in this movie together. It's called The Good Son. And just like Macaulay is a bad kid who like wants to kill everybody in his family, and Elijah is that other kid who doesn't want to kill everybody.
Nice Christmas movie.
Yeah. One more called Hooligans. Have you watched Hooligans with Charlie Hunnam and I said that wrong on purpose. Charlie Hunnam. Chicken rice. And Elijah Wood. Alright, cool. I'll go next. What I'm recommending today is a comedian called Tom Rhodes, who I think is one of the funniest guys I've come across recently. I remember, like, a lot of my fellow comics who would sit in the green room and who have toured abroad would talk about him all the time. Like, if they went to the Fringe Festival in Edinburgh or they went to Australia for the Melbourne Comedy Festival, they came back saying that this guy is just like so funny, and he's been in the comedy scene for like years now. And he essentially started around the early 90s. Used to have long hair and like just like would talk about, again, like pro marijuana bits and like, like dissing on people. Very outlandish, very outspoken. And the only reason he's not as famous as Bill Hicks, I say sometimes, because he hasn't died yet. Like that's part of like Bill Hicks' cult.
Yeah.
However, Tom Rhodes, like he's done so much over his 20 or plus years of career, where he's gone, like he hosted a night show on a Dutch television channel. Whoa. And like basically he does not know any of the celebrities. He's got like a rapper as a sidekick, and these guys are just like have no clue what's happening. He's saying anything he wants. He's dropping the F-bombs. He's insulting them outright, like talking about the porn films they made before becoming famous actors and everything. totally taking their case. Like he's wrecking them while hosting the night show. I think that's what sets him apart from a lot of comics, is because he doesn't hold back and he's never held back. He's even like been a travel show host and he's done all kinds of stuff. He was one of those people who was there when Comedy Central was first forming, you know, and he had his own show on Comedy Central as well called the Tom Rhodes Show. But like he's always been one of those guys who like, you know, I want to creatively keep on pushing my limits. So one of the bits that he does that Aditi Mittal told me is that he basically stands on the stage and pretends to be a teapot. And then like keeps making a noise like the teapot boiling over and doesn't stop unless someone from the audience comes and taps him, like as a means of shutting the teapot off, right? So like he does some weird stuff like that. And you check him out, he's on YouTube and he has his own website as well. So, and he also has a documentary which he made himself on himself. Just like weirdly meta. It's called There and Back Again. Basically, like, you know, documenting his own journey into like going away from the comedy scene in America and then coming back to the scene and somehow, you know, finding his own fold and own voice in the bargain. It's not a real great documentary. It's just like him kind of like stroking his own dick in a way. But like he's making obvious reference to it. Like, you know, it's that kind of meta weirdness that makes him stand out.
But do you think one of the reasons he didn't become as famous is because he didn't follow the conventional trajectory of having specials and stuff?
Exactly. He's one of those guys who kind of defied that. Like a lot of big comics, like even Chappelle, like really speaks highly of him. But the fact that he did not do the regular, you know, going to the late night shows and like be doing small bits and then building up to a special kind of thing. He just went away to another country altogether and hosted their late night. Like, just how absurd is that? So yeah, so his comedy also is on YouTube. He's written and done. He does musical bits. Does a lot of other stuff. So check him out. Called Tom Rhodes. Cool. So that's it from us in the recommendation round. Let's do a roundup quickly. Alika?
I recommended Hamilton, an American musical, the original soundtrack.
Josh?
I recommended an article called The Second Coming in the November edition of Caravan, but you can access it on the website.
Or buy the magazine from Josh.
No, don't do that.
He's done reading it.
Because I ain't gonna give it to you.
Abbas?
A movie called I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore.
It's okay, man. And I recommended the comedy stylings of Tom Rhodes. So let's take a quick break and we'll be back discussing our main topic for this show, for this episode.
In a world where people are busy playing Mendicoat at Diwali parties, two men decide to go all in the river.
Don't you mean on the river?
On the river.
Oh yeah.
Two men will go where no one has ever gone before, to a studio with no air conditioning or Coke Zero to talk about poker.
Hey, order lo na yaar, koi kya hai ye bakwas?
The SpartanPoker.com presents Mera Kaam Poker, hosted by Azim Banatwala.
The best comedian in the world, according to himself.
And Peter Abraham.
Not related to John.
New episodes out every Wednesday on the IVM podcast app or any other podcasting app you use. And for all our listeners who want to try out their hand at poker, you can log on to thespartanpoker.com, register yourself as a user with the promo code IVM, and you will get 200 bonus cash, which you can use to play poker for free. See you at the tables.
Ready.
Dun 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 dun.
So the shenanigans happening here, we were like discussing how do we even approach the topic that we're trying to do. And I was like, you want to go, man? You want to go? You want to fight? You want to go? So they were building up to that with the soundtrack. Fighting, however, is like one of those key integral part of a film that, you know, a lot of people sometimes end up glossing over. So, you know, we, however, end up with all these great movies where fight choreography is given, you know, excruciatingly, painstakingly detailed in terms of...
some painstaking, some less so, I would say.
Yeah. So that's why I think, like, you know, if you say John Wick, like, why it stood out from the whole, like, Taken and all these other regular comeback movies, like Equalizer and all that, it stands out because they gave the movie a unique style in terms of fight choreography. The guys who worked on the Matrix Revolutions and all these movies, they were the ones who were directing it, and they were on the backseat entirely, you know, training with Keanu and making him, you know, get in shape and everything. So he practiced like 5 different art forms before he got into the whole thing. But if you go back in time and call out to the best action star ever, there's Jackie Chan. There's nobody else who came even close to like emulating Kung Fu in cinema. So,
But that's an interesting point, because if you talk about like John Wick, if you talk about Equilibrium, or if you talk about Dread, they're all like gun battles.
Yeah,
They're
that's
not
right.
so much hand to hand. Like
Hand-to-hand
John Wick,
battle,
there is some
There is
hand to hand,
hand- there
but
is,
there's a
yeah.
lot of like shooting and fancy shooting.
exactly.
Versus
So the point I'm trying to make, however, is that they gave attention to other art forms apart from the usual. It's easy to go and do the whole kung fu karate kind of thing, which was like 80s, just basically went
it's
to- went
not
with that.
easy to do that, man.
No, it's easy to in terms of repetition. Like people are used to kung fu, so let's do another kung fu battle.
Right.
On the other hand, they'll do something like a capoeira or something like that. A silat, for example, which Raid is a great example of.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of you have you watched Raid?
I've seen both films.
Both films, no?
I've seen the first one.
First one again, it's legendary, the movie. If you don't know, please check out Raid. It's an Indonesian movie, and these guys who are choreographing the movie, let me check their names.
It's the lead actor and the baddie man.
Yeah, Uwais and Yayan Ruhain.
Yeah, who were also in The Force Awakens, by the way.
Yeah,
They
they
played-
were, yeah.
But wasted in a way.
Yeah,
Like, they were just
wasted.
like there.
Yeah.
But yeah, because J.J. Abrams, I think, is a fan of the
Yeah.
movies. So Raid is one of those movies which uses this Indonesian art form, martial arts form called Silat, and it's very impactful, very brutal, and very like no punches held back sort of thing. And it's brutal as well. Alika, do you enjoy action scenes in movies?
Yeah, but I prefer the more comedic stuff because I'm not a massive fan of fighting. I like fighting, but I like either if it's something like sword fighting.
Okay.
That's my more.
You like swords and sandals types.
Sandals? I don't know where.
Like
the sandals-
Gladiator.
Swashbuckler.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like who's throwing sandals at each other?
Yeah.
You told
Taking
two
it-
and then you're out of it.
300 also qualifies as swords
Yeah,
and sandals.
Yeah.
300.
No, I thought if we were talking about sandals, it's like in the movie Coco, they're taking out a chappal and hitting.
No, this is not like parliamentary session. It's not swords and sandals.
No, I do like sword fighting, swashbuckling, and I like comedic fighting. So that's why I enjoy action sequences like Jackie Chan movies, which have always this amazing comedic timing with his fighting. Like
Yeah.
there'll be a little bout of fighting, and then suddenly there'll be a comedic break as some part of the landscape structure collapses and somebody falls, or somebody takes a punch meant for somebody else. That's
Or Jackie Chan goes to hospital for 6 months and then comes back and finishes that scene
Yeah.
because he jumped like 3 stories
no,
down.
poor Jackie.
Yeah, man, that guy is something else. Drunken Master, for example, like that movie made him really famous in America.
Right.
As the fight scene progressed, he would get more drunker and then like do weird hijinks.
Yeah.
But like if you see, he was the first one to like use end credit scenes as like a blooper reel for all his fight sequences
Right.
where things went
Oh,
down.
they were
Oh,
the
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
best.
so we were all waiting for like even the armor of God and stuff like that because people always want to see what goes on behind all that
All the
throwing and pulling, yeah,
mistakes.
and timing, man. Like he would use a chair and like use it in such precise ways, but like he would obviously end up hitting himself 5 times in a row. So
Yeah.
we'd see that in the blooper reel.
Yeah.
It is crazy.
To be fair, watching those blooper reels were like the highlight
Yeah,
of watching
yeah.
the movie.
When I think of action movies, though, the 3 standouts for me that like that golden trio of brawn over anything else, which is Schwarzenegger, Stallone, Willis from the 80s, and yeah. So for me, action. I mean, I haven't seen that many kung fu movies. I actually started searching out kung fu movies after I saw Kill Bill,
Okay.
because Kill Bill was my introduction to kung fu. I hadn't really seen that much kung fu before,
But very over the top, sort of, in a way.
yeah, but
Yeah.
then Kill Bill was supposed to be like hundreds of movie genres in one movie. So,
But tell me something,
yeah.
does all your screens turn black and white when she starts killing those people in that club?
yeah,
When she's going after Lucy Liu?
Yeah.
I think I remember watching it in color though, long back on Sony Pix or something.
on Lucy, you're talking about Kill Bill 1.
Yeah.
No, that is not black and white. That's an Indian
the-
channel trying to be
Yeah, no?
censorship.
No,
yeah.
it does go black and white
It
very
goes
briefly.
black and white in the second one. It does it? Go black and
No,
white.
so this is
when
what I'm
she's
talking
taking
about,
out
like
the
in
88.
when she
scene
first, when the thing kicks off, it becomes black and white.
Yeah, she like Charlie Brown, go, and then like everything turns black and white, and
And
she's
then it's
cutting
suddenly
up-
like fast. The camera is moving very.
and the
fast.
hands
Yeah,
are being cut
maybe.
and there's spouts of blood
Yeah.
coming out, sort of.
I need to
But
watch it again.
See, that's what's interesting. Like, if you ever watch like Leone westerns, like his action, there might not have been a lot of action because there were a lot of these gunfights, but there was a lot of build-up
Yeah, intensity.
to that moment, like like the close-ups. So there's like with the Raid, right? You have that sort of kung fu action, but you also have that sort of ceremonial build-up to that sort of break when
Right.
all the shit kicks off.
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
thing, you know?
yeah.
So I like that stuff, but also I wanted to mention Home Alone, man. Like
Right in time of
Home Alone,
Christmas.
because Home Alone. So the logic of Home Alone action is it's very, very jugaad, very practical. You see,
yeah.
and I love that kind of action. Like you'll see that kind of action even at the end of
Equalizer.
Skyfall, actually,
Yeah,
the Bond film, when they're like in that last room and he uses all the nails and all that. That I thought I was like I was watching Home Alone again, and it's James Bond. But I really
grew
like
up.
action sequences.
Macaulay
which
grew up on
Macaulay grew up to be Bond.
yeah. But I like action sequence with that sort of practical element where they use, maybe there's something in the, like there's this wonderful sequence in Hollow Man, if you've ever seen it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Where
Kevin Bacon.
where she's trapped in that she's trapped in the freezer, and the door is this thing from the outside, and then she takes the handle, breaks it, wraps a wire around it, and then she opens the door from inside, you creating an electromagnet with a defibrillator, man.
That's like MacGyvering your way out of something.
Yeah, I like that kind of stuff, And if you watch, so that film is one. Definitely Assault on Precinct 13. That is very sort of like, okay, they've only got these many resources. They're trapped in this one building. How are they going to get out? Kind of thing. It becomes like a puzzle, Even Indiana Jones is full of these kind of puzzles.
Yeah, that's true. But then, what was the last really good action film that you saw? Because now, apart from the Fast and the Furious franchise, I don't really have any other.
Bahubali, of course.
I regret this immediately.
So let's
I
talk
regret this
about
question on your behalf, Abbas, for asking him this.
let's talk about speed ramping. Anyone knows what speed ramping
No,
is?
what is that?
No.
So you remember in 300 where they do this thing where he's like fighting, but it's like in slow motion, and then it
Yeah.
speeds up, and then it's in
Yeah,
slow
yeah, yeah.
motion.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
So that is called speed ramping. So apna Zack Snyder is the biggest.
Yeah.
Apna.
Yeah. He only.
Apna Sawan, Apna Jack Snyder.
Yeah.
So apna
So
he owned him.
he sort of popularized it, but in South Indian cinema, man, there is
Yeah,
much of that, and also in South Indian cinema, there's less gun violence. It's like kung fu, not kung fu, but it's like a lot of
Fighting.
hand-to-hand throwing people, physics-defying stuff. But it's mostly hand-to-hand, like guns.
So
and
what was the
all.
origin of that? Like, if you watch a lot of South Indian movies, like, do you remember that one point where one movie did it and then everybody was like, let's do this?
So whatever I've been watching, there's a point where I can see there's a lot of wire work. So there's clearly like after Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon came, because that film had so much wire work in it, and it looked fake, but it looked beautiful.
Beautiful,
Yeah.
it's graceful,
It
and
was-
I'm
yeah.
like, yeah, it's so weird. Michelle Yeoh is just running over. Like,
Yeah, because it's bizarre that they're running through the trees and they can
Yeah,
they're so
chow
floaty
yun
and stuff.
fart.
Yeah, but then it just works. I don't know somehow. But then you see there's a
even
lot
Matrix. Matrix was like very, again, like out of the blue in terms of like flying. in the
bullet
air.
time. Yeah,
Bullet time, yeah.
like slow motion after
It's
the
been
Matrix.
parodied like for ages now after that, like since then.
But that's what. So you have the Matrix, and then you have like people like Zack Snyder who use slow motion so extensively in the sort of action sequences. Then South Indian cinema is just full of that. Like if you watch Magadira, which is Rajamouli's film before Bahubali, it has the sequence which looks like a direct cog from that 300 sequence. But since then, people have sort of done variations. Like if you watch Puli Murugan, they have speed ramping in there, but they do it completely different. And in the sense that this guy, and what the common denominator in Bahubali and Puli Murugan is this guy called Peter Hain, man. Peter Hain, who's this half Vietnamese, half Tamil guy who does the action choreography for these films. So in Bahubali, there's a lot of speed ramping there as well. So it's become now a staple of South Indian cinema. And it again has this raid quality in that you have that sort of build up to the break, when the violence sort of hits, but then everything starts going like, it's physics defying after
All
that,
in the air.
Yeah.
I also want to mention Benny Urquidez here. This is the guy who would be in a lot of Jackie Chan movies where he would be like, like the main bad guy's henchman who's like very powerful in kung fu and everything, and like he would give him a very hard time. So again, you should watch some of these back. He was also used to actually be a wrestler as well. So you should see like how in the blooper reels how they would like kind of work with each other to make things happen. It's really unique because these guys have like only one main skill, right? And they're using everything they have to bring the A game to the fight sequence. It's quite like unique to me because I have a best friend called Kevin who would like trip on these, like he would just like watch Rob Van Dam and all these fight sequences. By the way, did anybody else think Rob Van Dam was on WWE as well? Because there was a Van Dam there as well.
We're talking about Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah, so
Rob-
when I was younger, I thought that he grew his hair out and became like WWE wrestler. So it's just like so weird.
Dude, but Rob Van Dam is actually he's in hospital right now. He's he might not be able to wrestle again. He's because of his injuries.
Okay.
Yeah, just putting it
Sadness.
Another Home Alone action sequence. Opening scene for Dabang. Have you seen it?
The first Dabang.
Yeah.
The
first Dabang where they're like in that thing and there's oil and I think it's a pastiche stuff from like Transporter, like a whole bunch of stuff. And they even spoof the Matrix in that when they throw the glass. So they're like you have that sort of practical thing, but at the same time you have a lot of sort of, they've obviously maybe copied or referenced, but it works for me, man. And I know for Dabang, they spent 2 months just shooting the action sequences. There were 5 different action sequences in the film. And usually you spend 2 months just to shoot a film, but for that film they spent 2 months just shooting the action sequences.
And now to end this topic, I think we should bring up this great movie that happened in the 90s. It starred Akshay Kumar and Rekha. And I think Mahima Chaudhary.
सबसे बड़ा खिलाड़ी.
हाँ, international खिलाड़ी.
International खिलाड़ी. Okay.
Where they had a Undertaker doppelganger, and that was when Akshay Kumar was like really booming into like
at his peak.
the khiladi, the fighter kind of personality, and like there's some great scenes in there, man.
Akshay
like,
Kumar and Sunil Shetty were Ash Schwarzenegger and Stallone, basically. Yeah.
And but still, like every time Sunil Shetty went down, somebody beat him up, and there was like 1 ton of saliva coming out of his mouth. That I don't miss.
In Hollywood now, it's all like before you had Transporter, right? Now you have John Wick, Jack Reacher, Taken. They're all these sort of like guys, I don't know, some CIA, some ex-military.
But you know what's my biggest problem with some of the Hollywood movies, and this happened again with the Iron Fist as well, too much shaky cam. When the choreography is not good.
I hate that.
I hate shaky cam, man.
Same.
And you know, the only person who's done great shaky cam, the only movie that utilizes shaky cam and does a good job is Bourne Ultimatum. The Bourne series, essentially. They have a lot of shaking cam series, but they're actually hitting each other very impactfully.
That's it. So the one thing I didn't mention, like with Jackie Chan, right? So there's this great video by this guy who does every frame a painting.
Yeah.
And he does one video on Jackie Chan, and there's one bit in the video where he talks about how, like in Jackie Chan films, you actually see the impact of the punch. Like in a lot of Hollywood films, they cut on the impact. So it's like when they hit it, the cut happens there.
And the next scene is when like the
sort
stunt double
of reaction, the fallback. Because a lot of like with sound or like even with action or even special effects, I would say, like a lot of the impact comes from the other sort of the reaction to it. So like with the sound, like a cannon or a gunshot, right? You can have the sort of like in sound design, you can have the gunshot sound be like really big and sound like a cannon, but it depends on how it's bouncing off stuff. Like if it breaks glass or or with an explosion, it's like all the rubble and the rumble and sort of debris flying, you know, that gives it the impact. It's all the like the actual explosion doesn't give the impact. It's all the reaction to it. So even with
physical impact, that sound has to be like very obvious. Otherwise, like bishum, bishum.
Yeah,
this is what happened.
That's what really bugs me. But like in some Kerala films, right, Malayalam films in the 90s, like the stories are so good, but when the action comes and it's supposed to be all realistic and hard, it's all dish, 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 dish. Like, dude, this is supposed to be like an emotional scene right now.
What? Who's beating each other in an emotional scene?
There's this one film I was watching where they bury this guy in like one of the bunds on the side of a
highway,
a paddy field.
Okay.
Like, and it's like he's supposed to be like some martyr and all, but it's like a brutal killing. Like they all just like they get him there and then they kill him and then they bury him alive, kind of thing. But then in the fight, it's all like dish, dish, dish. And I'm like, man, this is supposed to be like the sad flashback part.
Man, he was buried alive. Let him at least have his fight sequences. Cool. So that brings us to the end of this discussion. We all have great fight sequences to call out. What is yours, dear listener? Are you still with us? I hope you are. And if you do watch fight choreography and would like to give your 2 cents on what contributes to making a great fight scene, a physical combat fight scene, we mean, or swords and sandals, do let us know. And for now, it's me, Navin Arona, along with Alika, Josh and Abbas saying bye for now. Christmas season is here. We're going to have a very special episode next week. Yes, and excitement is already boiling over. So let's see what happens in the near future. It's a weird thing to say. Thank you guys for joining us today, and I guess, goodbye.
Goodbye.
एक्सक्यूज मी भैया, एक्सक्यूज मी,
बोलिए मैडम।
मेन्यू में क्या है?
मेन्यू में सीन अनसीन है, पॉडकास्ट है, ऑन कोर्स है, साइरस है, मेड इन इंडिया, रीडिस्कवरी प्रोजेक्ट, एम्पावरिंग सीरीज, सेक्स वैक्स है, IVM लाइक्स है, सिंप्लीफाइड है, कीपिंग इट क्वियर है, ड्रिंक्स एंड डेस्टिनेशंस है, माय नेबर सकरबर्ग है और द फैन गराज है। आपको क्या चाहिए?
एक बार रिपीट कर देंगे क्या?
रिपीट नहीं करता हम। आप जाओ IVMpodcast.com पे और सुनो ये सब, या फिर डाउनलोड करो उनका ऐप, सब आपकी उंगलियों पे।